trying to avoid type 1 errors, you might choose a really tiny alpha, okay? But if you choose a tiny alpha, then you're going to be rejecting the null hypothesis less often, okay? And maybe you didn't reject the null hypothesis when you should have, okay? And that's called a type 2 error. So our conclusion here is not to reject the null hypothesis. Again, because the p-value here is greater than alpha, okay? But it turns out that the null hypothesis is false. So we should have actually rejected it. Okay. The probability of a type 2 error is a little bit more complicated to calculate, but we give it a symbol anyway. And so the probability of a type 2 error is beta, okay? Alpha is the first letter of the Greek alphabet, so it goes with type 1. Beta is the second letter, so it goes with type 2. Okay? Calculations for this complicated, okay? Slightly complicated calculation. I'm going to run out of time to do my favorite illustration for this, but that's okay. Some other day. Alright, and then we give a special name to the complement of beta, okay, or complement of a type 2 error. So, what would be the complement of a type 2 error? So type 2 error is, our conclusion is not to reject the null, and it turns out the null hypothesis is false. So the complement of that would be?
We reject the HO and that
Yeah.
the word false?
Yeah, so it's just putting a not in front of this. So our conclusion is to reject the null, and it turns out that the null hypothesis is false. So that's a good thing, okay? When the null hypothesis is false, you want to reject it. So the complement of a type 2 error is correctly rejecting the null hypothesis when the null hypothesis is false. Okay? And the probability of that, of this, is called the power. So power is equal to 1 minus beta. So the probability of not committing a type 2 error or correctly rejecting the null when the null hypothesis is false is known as the power. So we talk about tests being powerful, and that means it's going to properly detect when the null hypothesis is false. Okay? All right, we'll see you guys on Friday.